What is going on, guys? Crazy Pizza Man here. Today we're going to be going over my top 10 PS4 games that I think you should own. Now, obviously, this is a very subjective list, very subject to change, obviously, depending on what kind of gamer you are, what kind of games you prefer, but this is just my general list of my favorite games. It's a little bit of everything. It's got PS4 exclusives, PS4 games that aren't necessarily exclusives, and then remasters of older PlayStation exclusive titles. So I tried to keep it a little diverse here, so there's a little bit of something for everybody, so yeah, just bear with me on that. So without any further ado, let's get right into my top 10 PS4 games. And if at any point in this video you guys like what you're seeing, you like the production, you like me, you like something I said, whatever the case may be, consider subscribing because I pump out stuff like this all the time. Coming in at number 10, we got our first PlayStation exclusive and our first remaster on this list. Now, when I was getting the two remasters that I put on this list, I wanted to make sure that they were games that I feel didn't get truly appreciated their first time around, and now they're being put on hardware that they can finally be appreciated. And the first one on our list is Dead Nation. It's a really early PS3 title back when nobody owns a PS3. I didn't even have a PS3 when this game first came out, but I can assure you it was one of the first few games I did get when I did finally get a PS3 years later. And Dead Nation is just a really awesome top-down zombie game that really is reminiscent of the era it came out in, you know, like the 28 Days Later zombie era. And I think it's got a lot of callbacks to that. You know, you see like live footage used in the opening intro and stuff like that. The general like aesthetic of the game is very 28 Days Later inspired for sure. And the gameplay itself is just a really fun kind of co-op top-down shooter. It's got a lot of quirks of a lot of older games and stuff where, you know, you navigate through a cool-ass little level, then you get to a cool-ass little checkpoint, and you could upgrade your armor, you could upgrade your guns. It's just overall a really fun zombie game that I think got really overlooked because it came out in the worst possible time to be a fan of the PS3. And now it's got new life on PS4 with tons of great new features. It's got all the DLC, and on top of that too, they added a new thing called broadcast mode where players can now stream the game, which sounds pretty cool and all, but then the viewers can actually vote on the zombie spawns and shit. So it's a pretty cool experience on the PS4, needless to say. So I think it's a game you should definitely check out.
4 Adam 13, this is Sergeant Sebastian Castellanos. What's happening up there?
Unknown.
Number 9 on the list is our first non-exclusive game, and that is The Evil Within. Now, The Evil Within is, of course, from the mastermind of Shinji Mikami, the dude that made the original Resident Evil, and it's just a really all-around great horror game. It came out kind of when there were still PS3 games coming out for the PS4, but it was one of those games that should not have been released on the PS3. Although I am kind of grateful it was, though, because I was able to play it at launch because of that, because I didn't have a PS4 yet. But the PS3 version suffers from a lot of frame rate issues and whatnot. The PS4 is definitely the way to play. Now, The Evil Within is a great, like, super great gothic kind of horror game, and it's got a lot of sci-fi elements, of course, because, you know, it's, you know, of course, same guy that made Resident Evil, so you're going to see a little light sci-fi stuff. But what makes it really cool is that you're basically playing through a bunch of jumbled up memories of a bunch of different people that have all been really distorted in horrific ways by this dude Ruvik, who is at the center of all this, and you're going through his memories as well. And it's just a really great psychological horror game. It's great if you're into action horror like Resident Evil 4, or Shinji Mikami's other game, Shadows of the Damned, which is also fairly similar in tone, I would say, but more lighthearted, actually. And you also play as a Hispanic dude with luscious black slicked back hair, so another common similarity. But it's just a really all-around great horror game. It's one of the best horror games from the last, like, you know, decade, I'd say. Yeah, 2014, 2013 is when it came out, so yeah, it's been about 10 years. But yeah, just all-around great game. You should definitely check it out. Number 8, we're going back to exclusives for, and this is Gravity Rush. Now, you may be saying, excuse me, that's actually a PS Vita game, and it's actually a remaster on the PS4. Well, I'm sorry to offend the 3 people that actually owned a PS Vita. As, dude, I wanted to get it so bad, Sony gave up on it, and before I even got the chance to pick one up, trust me, Gravity Rush is a PS4 game now, in my eyes at least, so I think it just counts because this game is one of those games that did actually get to flourish on the PS4. Not saying it didn't flourish on the PS Vita, because obviously if it had fans on the Vita, that was what made them port it over to the PS4 to get more fans. So, just calm down, alright? We're just having fun here, alright? But, getting into the actual game, Gravity Rush is a really super unique indie game that really has an awesome gameplay loop, and it's got a really interesting dynamic of, you know, obviously like changing gravity and whatnot, and flying up in the air, doing all these crazy moves on enemies and stuff like that. It's just a really, really beautiful looking game, and I really love the dialogue in it and the text bubbles and whatnot and the exchanges you have with the little cat and stuff. It's just all around a really great game. It goes for a pretty penny now on physical. I really wish I didn't sell my physical copy of that years ago. I just beat it and I wanted to play other games. Don't judge me, please. But please don't make the mistake I did. If you have this on physical and you haven't played it, play it. And if you don't have a physical copy of it, I'm pretty sure it's available digitally, so you're good either way. Number 7 is Amnesia The Bunker. Now, this is also not an exclusive title, but I think it's worth mentioning because it's available on the PS4, and it's probably the best damn horror game of the last decade by far. If The Evil Within is one of the best horror games of the last decade, Amnesia The Bunker is the best horror game of the last decade. It is the best Amnesia game as well, in my opinion. I think Amnesia The Bunker, what just makes it so great is that it combines everything that makes new survival horror games like the original Amnesia, Cry of Fear, Outlast, all those games. It's got all the stuff that makes those games super awesome. You know, like stalker enemies, very limited like defense, really, if any defense at all. But here's the twist. It's got all the stuff that made classic survival horror games so friggin' good, one of them being defensive items and stuff. You could actually get guns in this one. There's even an item box, save points, and stuff like that. And it's just such a damn chillingly good game. Like, the atmosphere of the bunker is perfect, the story is really great, and the lore of the game is really, really interesting. Navigating the bunker in the pitch dark is really great, and having to manage the generator to keep it going and everything like that. It's just really the best of both worlds of survival horror, of the old school survival horror games and then the new school survival horror games with a lot of more stealth heavy mechanics and stuff like that, because you don't really get a lot of bullets, to be fair. Like, you will be hiding most of the game, trust me. But if you do need to use the gun and stuff, the option is there. And it is just such a good game. If you have a PS4, dude, please, I implore you, check this out. Next up, we got Uncharted 4, obviously an exclusive for the PlayStation 4. If you aren't familiar with the Uncharted series, it is one of the best adventure games, probably period, ever made. A lot of people used to call it Dude Raider back in the day, because it's basically just male Tomb Raider, except Nathan doesn't really have ballistics. So, you know, that was your thing. Sorry to disappoint. But Uncharted 4 really just knocks off the series really, really well. It's the last entry in at least Nathan Drake's story. I don't know if they're going to do more games without Nathan Drake, but it just wraps it up in a really nice way that really made fans very happy. It's got a really unique treasure. It's got a pirate theme going on this time, which just fits really nicely in all the other treasures that Uncharted and Nathan Drake have found. You got, you know, El Dorado in the first game, you got Shambhala in the second game, the Atlantis of the Sands in 3, and now in 4, boom, Lost Pirate Treasure. And it's got a lot of really new gameplay features and a lot of really nice quality of life improvements as well, overall to the shooting and everything like that. It just feels really friggin' nice. If you're a fan of more or less cinematic games like I am, it gets a little iffy sometimes with that. It's the only really negatives I have about the game. I think it's just a great way to end the series, so if you were hesitant or you played all 3 Uncharteds, I'd be very surprised if you didn't play 4, but if you have been kind of like slacking on it, definitely get on it because it's really good. Or if you're just getting into the Uncharted series, go back and play the fucking first game. Although the second game is probably the best, I will say that, but if you want to enjoy the full series, I highly recommend that as well. Number 5, we're going back to non-exclusives for a second with Doom 2016. Doom 2016 is a legendary game for so many reasons. For starters, it's from a legendary series, but also it just completely revitalized the entire boomer shooter, arena shooter genre in games, at least in my opinion, because it seems like those kinds of games kind of like died out for a bit in like the early 2010s, and then Doom just came back and it's like, yo, we're back, we're killing demons. This time there's like execution animations you could do on the demons. There's an actually like pretty decent story, some supporting like kind of character-ish kind of entities and stuff like that, and it's just so much fun. Not saying Eternal isn't fun, I like Eternal a lot as well, but 2016 was really what gave the genre a real revitalization that it really, really needed. Because, you know, after this, we had Quake Champions came out, we had obviously Doom Eternal, like I just mentioned, and so many countless other games on the Steam Workshop, not the Steam Workshop, but on Steam though, that just, you know, went back to that old school shooter style. And I think this game is definitely heavily responsible for it, and it deserves all the credit. And you should definitely play it because that soundtrack is friggin' awesome. Number 4, we got a game I actually just picked up recently. It is Bloodstained's Ritual of the Night, which is, those of you who don't know, a spiritual successor to the Castlevania games. This game is just absolutely beautiful. in pretty much every way. I love the cover art. I love all the areas. The music is just amazing. And the gameplay loop is really fun. It's an old school, style Castlevania game, a Metroidvania, if you will, if that's your preferred term for these kinds of games. And it's just really damn good. There's so much content in it too. I didn't even expect to be playing it as long as I did. It's a pretty friggin' long game, to be honest with you. But the pacing is pretty good. The bosses are really fun. There's tons of weapons and stuff. It's got a lot of RPG-like elements this time around. So you're going to be upgrading equipment, you're going to be upgrading armor, there's these things called guards that you could use against the enemies and stuff like that. If you're a fan of this style of game, I definitely recommend it for sure. Especially if you're a fan of the newer style Metroidvania games like Shovel Knight or Blasphemous, which are also really, really solid games. But, like I said, I wanted to keep this list kind of a little bit of something for everybody, so I did not include them on here, sadly. But I guess quick honorary mentions, yeah, Blasphemous and Shovel Knight. Check those out. They are absolutely sick too if you love this style of game. Number 3 is our last remaster on this list, and it is the Resident Evil HD remaster of the 2002 remake. Now, this is another thing I put on the list because this was another game that did not get the recognition it deserved when it came out. The people that played it at the time, myself included on the original GameCube version, know how friggin' good it was. I mean, this is literally just peak Resident Evil. You cannot disagree with me on this. It is the staple of what you should do in a Resident Evil game, but also what you should do in a remake. It took everything that made the original great, added tons of new stuff, kept everything that made people like the original, and it's just a beautiful game. The soundtrack is amazing. It really gave the original so much more depth, and it was really truly the game that Shinji Mikami really wanted to make, and you can tell because the game is just dripping with atmosphere and detail. It is one of the best games ever made, and the PS4 version broke sales records when it came out. Well, PS4 version, Xbox One, and Steam, and PS3 actually, and 360 I think it came out on as well. Don't quote me on it, but yeah, this game shattered Capcom's digital sales records when it came out. So it is just a legendary game that finally got the love and recognition it deserved. It is the pinnacle of survival horror in Resident Evil, and if you haven't checked it out, you gotta get on it, man. I am telling you, you gotta get on it. Trust me. One of the best games ever made. Play it. Number 2, obviously, if you own a PS4, you definitely saw this coming on the list. Bloodborne is so good. It is so good. I'm not even a huge From Software fan, and it's so good. It is just amazing. It's hard as shit, like all their games are. I actually am not even finished with it yet. I've just played so much of it. And I am trying to actually finish it. My friend Shobi is helping me out with the game right now. We're playing through it co-op. And, dude, I don't even know where to start with Bloodborne. For starters, it's probably one of, if not the best PlayStation exclusive that's ever come out. It's just really freaking good. And you'd be surprised why it's only second on this list. I honestly don't even know. But, like I said, this isn't really in any specific order. Bloodborne is just so good. Again, just another game that's just dripping with atmosphere. There's so many awesome enemies. Like, the enemy design is just absolutely beautiful. The environments are beautiful. Just like peak Victorian gothic horror kind of vibe going on. And just, I love everything about it. I love the upgrades. I love the hunter's dream where you go to the beautiful little doll lady and you get upgrades from her. The weapons are so good. You could use guns. You could go boom. You could shoot them now. But it's really only better for parrying, but I still just appreciate that they give me a gun. Because I don't know. I'll automatically like a game more if they give me a gun. It's the white boy in me. I don't know, I guess. I've only played probably 2 other From Software games, and so my knowledge on the series is a little limited, but it is my personal favorite out of the few I've played and the many hours I've spent trying to beat them. And it just really reminds me of that whole era of games super hard as nails games from the NES and stuff like that, where even if you don't beat them, you spend so much time going through the levels trying to beat it that even if you never beat the game, it is going to stay in your memory for the rest of your life. It's just that good. So definitely check out Bloodborne. Now, number 1 on this list. And the reason I put this above Bloodborne is because I think it's a little bit more of everyone's speed. You're probably more likely to beat this, but it's also just really, at its heart, my favorite style of game, and that is Until Dawn. Until Dawn is also a PlayStation 4 exclusive. It is the first, I don't know if they made games before this, but it's the first of the dark picture kind of universe that Supermassive Games decided to go and create with Until Dawn. And Until Dawn is just an awesome game, man. It was a game in 2014, a new game that used fixed camera angles in certain sections. It's got just really awesome, like, old school slasher kind of vibes, but then, like, it throws you so many curveballs and the story winds up being so much more than that. And there's so much awesome mythology in the game. The characters are really funny. There's so many options you could do with the game. You could choose to either let everyone live, let everyone die, pick and choose who you want. It's just, dude, it is such an awesome game with so much replayability to it, and the environments are just really great, and it's personally my favorite supermassive game, The Quarry being a close second. But I don't know, something about the characters in this game, the snowy mountaintop and the isolation, it just really reminds me of like The Thing kind of meets like Friday the 13th meets like Resident Evil, and like it's just a really cool game, and it's just super fun, especially like if you get some people over your house and you guys are all playing it, you could all make the decisions and stuff like that. It's just genuinely an awesome game. I think it's my favorite supermassive, no, it is my favorite supermassive game. I already just said that, but yeah, so without repeating myself, Until Dawn, my #1 slot for PS4 games you should totally own. Now, I do have some honorable mentions on here. First one being the Final Fantasy VII Remake. The remake is really good. I kind of do wish they went back to the turn-based a bit, because I do like that style of game a lot. But the remake is just super good. They added so much stuff to it. So it's basically like, you know, the original, but they really did add a lot, even if the gameplay is different. The gameplay is still fun. I do like it, you know, but it's just a really beautiful game. Next is going to be Death Stranding, and the reason Death Stranding specifically did not make this list is because I don't like the PS4 version. The director's cut is the definitive way to play this, and it is a PS5 game, so if I ever do a PS5 video, again, if you like this kind of video, I'll probably do a PS5 one at some point, because PS5's got some really good games now, honestly, now that it's been out for a bit. Even if they're not heavy hitter AAA titles, there's really just a lot of good stuff on there. Yeah, anyways, Death Stranding, director's cut added a bunch of stuff that should have been in the game. It added more like enemies and like guns and stuff like that. Just, I think, the game that it should have been released as, so that's the only reason Death Stranding is not on here. Now, my last honorable mention, I consider a PC game because I played it on PC first. It was out on PC first, so I would more categorize it probably in like a top 10 games of like all time, to be honest, or just from last generation, and that is Stardew Valley. The PS4 version, just like all the other versions, is friggin' amazing. The entire game was made by one dude. It's so beautiful. It's the ultimate comfort game, and there's just something to do in it for everybody. If you like the farming aspect of these games, you can literally just stay on the farm and go farm. If you want to change it up, you can go fishing. If you like the combat more side of things, you can go in the mines and you could fight monsters and stuff and get different equipment and stuff like that. The interactions you could have with the townspeople, all the different people you can get married to. Each character is just really awesome to talk to, and I love giving them gifts and seeing all their own unique reactions and whatnot. And they're just constantly adding content to this game. Like, I really at this point don't think I'll ever really 100% the game or even do everything they want me to do. There's just always something to do in this game. And it's just great if you want to play a game, but you know, you don't really want to go all heavy and you don't want to kill yourself playing Bloodborne. It's beautiful. Stardew Valley, I think, is possibly one of the best games of like all time. I really think you should play it, and it's technically on PS4. That's why it's an honorable mention, but it's not really on the list though. So just please play Stardew Valley, please. It's just so awesome. Play all the games on this list. I really had a fun time making this video. If you guys enjoyed this video, like I said, make sure to leave a subscription. Stick around for a little bit. I got tons of awesome videos coming. So yeah, I will leave you guys on that. What were your guys' favorite games of the PlayStation 4? They can be exclusive, they can be non-exclusive, whatever it is. I want to hear them in the comments. Do you think I'm an asshole? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to read them too. I will argue, I will banter, I will agree, whatever the comments are. If you just want someone to argue with, I'll be there. But until next time, thank you guys for watching.